Yes, we do. Okay. Let me get my weight screen going here. Hey, man, what's going on? There we go. What the
Cool.
shit?
Knocked a bunch of films on the floor.
All right, dude, what's up? What are we Okay, so what? I think we're live. What's going on, Print Fam? It's your boy Cam. Let's go through this little thing and say what's up to everybody real quick. We got Inking Zinc in the house, Pasteurized Teas in the house, Tim McElhenney, Cheryl Brown, Chris Harris, Inkstone Custom Ink, Marshall Atkinson, Eric Duchamp. My nephews, Ben and Midge, are hanging out here with us. Say what's up to them, guys. NovoWorks, Color Imaging. Dude, so many. Matt Fontaine is here. Scott McLean, I think I already said that. And a hell of a lot more of you. Thank you all for joining in. Thank you for being here. We got a great show today. But before we get started, let's roll that intro. And it's working, babies. Monument Limited presents The Print Live. Live. And one more time with the intro. What's going on, Print Fam? It's your boy Cam. Welcome back to another episode of the Print Live video podcast. Let's get some introductions going here. Oh, actually, before we do that, remember, we're doing the new section called #Print Myth Bust, where you ask your print myth questions, and we have our guest do their best to either confirm or bust these myths. So start submitting those things right now, and at the end of the show, we'll tackle that section. Hold your comments until about midway through the show, just so that I don't have to scroll to the top of the chat to find them as well. Today's guest, I'm out of breath. Give me a second. I just spit out like 6,000 sentences without breathing. Today's guest is, you know what? In a lot of ways, she's a very special addition to the print industry. I started the Print Life Facebook group some time ago, and as you all know, I barely go in there. But every time I would poke my head in the Print Life group, there was one individual that just seemed to be going out of his way to answer questions. I mean, he's clearly a busy person, but he's always going out of his way to answer questions. So I figured, dude, if he's willing to do this on his free time, why don't we bring him in here and kind of compile all of those questions into one place and maybe free up some of his time. So that's what we're going to do today. Today's guest is none other than Mr. Jason Lablue. Thank you for coming in, Jason.
Almost.
I almost nailed it,
No
brother.
problem.
How are you, my friend?
Good.
Cool. Well, we've been chatting beforehand, but we're going to try to get this conversation rolling, man. The thing that, I don't know if you've watched the show before, but what I like to do is ask people just kind of what you consider your specialty to be within the screen printing industry. Where is your strengths, dude? Let us know.
I think our strength is we're after the higher end niche. That's not cool. I got to get a beer.
Hey, bro. If you go on the live show, you have to have a beer. It's almost a rule. I should have told you.
Yeah. But our specialties, you're more picky client.
Yeah.
Pretty much the clients most people fire for being too damn picky are the ones that we end up with.
Okay.
So it's catch-22.
Yeah.
You know, they're willing to pay more, but they're also a bigger pain in the ass.
Beautiful, man. Now, what about you as an individual? So in the print game, you know, I feel like everybody has their specialty. Like mine started out kind of more in the design side of things. Like, what is your strength?
I would say probably in the printing part of it.
Yeah.
And some SEPs.
Very cool.
So
that's the big one.
Kind of what I cut my teeth. I mean, when I started, I had to do all of it anyway. I didn't have anybody else to sit there and do the SEPs, and
I got you.
So it was, figure it out.
Yeah. So just the whole process from the screen room to on press and final production. That's you. You're a press guy, really.
There's nothing in the shop that I can't or don't do. Even the embroidery.
Right on.
I started doing all of it, and I figured if I'm going to have to supervise it or train people to do it, I need to know how to do it, and I need to know how to do it at a higher level than they do.
Yeah, I love
Otherwise,
that.
you don't get the respect of your employees.
Right. That makes sense, man.
If you can't show them, then they're not going to want to follow you.
Yeah, it's true. Now, as far as this print industry goes, man, like, how did you get started in it? What was the thing that set you off there?
Well, I had worked for the phone company for many years. Before that, I I was into T-shirts from being on a wildland fire crew. We used to collect the T-shirts at every fire we would go to. We'd buy a T-shirt, and I saw some guys printing at one of the fire camps.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. And this was early 90s, so it was really before internet stuff.
Yeah.
And so I would sit there and chit-chat with them every fire we'd go to and see how they would do it. And I thought, cool, I'm going to try this someday. And then time got away, and ended up working for the phone company and met a guy that used to do screen printing as a production manager. And we started tinkering around making our own T-shirt line, but we were having them printed by another shop. And so we would go in, and I saw that. Once I saw the automated stuff, I was pretty hooked.
You're in.
Then I took a job actually going off-road racing professionally, and that lasted a couple of years. When I lost that job, started making T-shirts out of the garage, just goofing around on a single color, piece of shit eBay press. And a heat gun is where I started.
Did you just want to try to maybe start selling some of them at some of those the firefights, like the forest fire things and stuff like that?
I thought about it, but the travel of doing that, you got to travel all over the place, and
yeah,
if I was going to do that, I'd just go back.
I was surprised when I found out that was a damn niche, dude. Like I had a forest fighter friend, and he would tell me that people would show up with shirts specific to that fire.
Yes, exactly. I mean, they literally. There's guys that sit there and wait for it, and you've got to have the shirts done within a day or two of that fire starting.
Yeah.
As soon as they get the name, you've got to come up with it, because the crews come in and out. Unless it's a big fire and it's really drawn out.
Yeah.
They'll be in and out of there within a few days.
But they're out there selling, because it's kind of like it's a souvenir shirt. It's fucked up to say, but it's a souvenir to that devastating fire that they fought.
Oh, it is. And then we used to get them, and we would trade them with other fire guys from different states, and it's just a good collection. I still have them all in a box somewhere.
Do you really?
Yeah, but that's where I got the T-shirt bug. And then once I lost my job, it was just kind of goofing around in the garage making some one-offs and flipping them on eBay. And then word of mouth started spreading, because if you talk to most people hate their screen printer.
Right.
When you're not in screen printing, if most people that have shirts made, they hate their screen printers.
Yeah, they pretty much hate the process from start to finish. Yeah,
they do.
With most of their experience.
If you can do what I call the three things that everyone hates about their screen printer, if you can do those well, you can have plenty of business. So if you call your customer back, if you do your job on time, and you do it nice, you're always going to be busy.
Right. Always call them back, right? Never let the customer feel like they're hanging or that they're being ignored. I mean, it's obvious, but
well, most screen printers, they're left brain artists, and we all know how artists are. All of us, anybody in this industry that's tried to get artwork done by an artist, and I'm not bashing the artist, but you know how fun it is to get artwork from artists. Yeah,
there really are different hemispheres. It's like, the art world has a certain type of person, and they're definitely not deadline driven.
Exactly. Right. You tell even some of the best ones in this business will ride the pine until the last minute. And you're begging them for that artwork 2 days before your job's got to go to press.
As you, as a shop owner, would you consider yourself more of a task-oriented type of person, like schedules and deadlines? You're really good with them?
I'm probably not that good at them.
Okay.
And that's why I have people in the front office.
Yeah.
To be good at them.
You're right.
Because I do get buried here in the back with the technical stuff, and when a job's taking too long on press, I'm out here trying to get it moving again.
All right. Cool, man. So after you kind of got that single color press, you're messing around with it, you're selling a few things, then what? Yep, we lost him.
Yep.
There you go. One more time. Come on back.
Yep, I'm here.
Cool. Go for it.
Say that last part again.
So after you got your single color press, you're making a few shirts, you're in there, you're trying to sell a few on eBay, but what happens after that? What's the progression from there as a shop owner?
Progression from there, I ended up getting a little 4-color 6 station and a small little dryer, and then started actually doing jobs for people. Like I said, once people started, I knew a lot of people in the racing And I had a lot of friends that race, and then I have friends that own businesses, so they all started hitting me up, and the word of mouth started spreading. I did a car show for the city. One of the other local printers ratted me out that I was doing it at my house, and so I had to go get a small shop. That was the next. That was the decision right there, whether or not, okay, do I want to do this as a business, or do I want to still side money?
Well, you know, that kind of raises an interesting question, that progression that you had in that moment. I feel like when you first start a business, I mean, I think most new printers, the question that I see all the time and all the forums is how you start acquiring clients. And I've noticed a lot of people, they go two ways. They either kind of do the advertising yellow pages kind of thing or the Google thing, or they have a fairly large circle of friends that they can kind of draw on to bring clients in the beginning.
Exactly. I mean, we have built this on 95% word of mouth.
That's insane, man. That's like old school.
Very little. Yeah, it's old school. It's very old school way of doing it. I've found that the.
Sorry to interrupt. I need you to approve me to.
Okay.
And while he's.
Can I gotta just approve
yeah.
something real quick on a phone for bank stuff.
Cool, man. So yeah, he's you guys were running him right in the middle of his production day. We tried to push it later, but he was like, "This is the best time to do it." So, yeah, guys. So while he's kind of doing that, he'll let us know when he's ready to go again. Make sure that you're starting to kind of submit your print myth busts in the chat, because I feel like we're gonna get to the meat and potatoes of this show in a little bit, but I just like to talk to him about his kind of. His background, so that we have a baseline to work from here. But submit your print myth bust questions about anything, man. Screen tensions, types of screens, inks, reducers, fucking additives, all that stuff. Whatever you guys have that you've heard but you're not really sure or you're not clear on, let's see if he can't tackle these for us.
Okay.
You about ready,
Sorry
buddy?
about that. Board of Equalization stuff.
No problem, my man. We knew what we were getting into when I signed you up in this time slot, so we'll manage. When you said the thing like with the word of mouth thing, and it's kind of old school, but it also, I feel like that method in particular forces you as a printer to really, your last job is the thing that's going to get you your next job, right? So it forces you as a shop that is, you have to have quality control. You're not going to get the next job because you're only as good as the last job you did, right?
Exactly. And especially where I'm located, I'm 45 minutes north of LA, where there's thousands of other printers that people can use.
Right.
I mean, there's literally thousands upon thousands of printers.
Right.
So you have to do something to try and set yourself apart.
And I mean, you and I've seen a lot of the stuff that you guys do. I mean, you have figured it out now. I feel like you understand it now. But in the beginning, when you're cutting your teeth at it, you're never producing a perfect product in the beginning or anything even near perfect. So how did you progress from just being what would ultimately be a shitty new printer into acquiring the skills? How did you do it?
I really paid attention to what I consider the leaders in this industry. I want to print like Andy Anderson from Anderson Studios. Take everything that Mark Coudray says and write it down.
Okay.
When he starts talking about dots and ink properties, you write it down. Right. You listen to it. You memorize it.
He's been
processes. I know Marshall's listening.
Marshall.
When he talks about processes and stuff like that. You write that stuff down. You listen to these guys.
Love it. Yeah, I got to get them on the show. I got to get Mark on the show as well, man. Who was the other one? Andy what?
Andy Anderson.
See, we need to get him on. If you have contact with him, hit me up after the show. We'll see if we can't get him on here as well.
He's the king of CMYK.
Cool.
So the guy is an amazing printer. He's been doing it forever.
So when you started out, you just reach out to them in the forums or something of that nature?
A little bit. I was back on the old screenprinters.net before all the Facebook groups. Mm-hmm. Just watching. I would never really comment because I'd get my ass handed to me if I was in there trying to comment with those guys. But you just listen to what they say. You read whatever literature they post.
Gotcha.
Andy and I talk now from time to time. We're always chit-chatting on Facebook. I actually went out and visited his shop several months ago.
Very nice.
Hung out with him and Mark that was kind of neat to see both of those guys.
Is it fair to say that because they were kind of so forthcoming with you with information early on, that's kind of why you feel the same need to like kind of pay that forward in the groups and things like that?
I do. It's, you know,
yeah.
A lot of this stuff, even when I started 11 years ago, you know, nobody would reveal anything about color sets. Mm-hmm. You had to beg, borrow, and steal to get a good color set guy to tell you what his secrets are.
Right.
So, you know, I actually had a guy that was one of the pioneers in index color sets that I was able to really pick his brain and let him show me how to color set. And it was.
Did you have to pay his ass?
I actually did pay him.
There you go. Sometimes that's the fair trade, right? For something when you're trying to figure it out.
You know, this guy had 20 years before I started doing it, and he was getting out of the business, so he was willing to let all the information go that I could absorb.
Right on, man. So as you're going through it and you're starting to learn these things, you're getting information from these printers. Was there ever a point for you, I mean, even if it was just last year, maybe it could have been 6 months ago, where you felt like it clicked over and you maybe felt like things just all fell into place, or was it just a natural linear progression in terms of quality?
I think it's more of a natural linear progression. I was always, from day one, wanted to do a better print than anybody around where we were at. Mm-hmm. My goal was to, I didn't want to compete on price. I wanted to compete on quality, because the people that come to you for quality aren't going to ask you for, you know, internet prices. So I was fine with the guys that were willing to, you know, I can get that shirt $1 cheaper down the street. Cool. Mm-hmm. See you later.
So you kind of, I don't really know the word to look for, but you subscribe to that concept. You're not going to battle it out for pricing. If the customer comes at you trying to hammer you on price, you just refuse to do it.
It would, I mean, yes and no. For the most part, yes, depending on the project. If it's something easy, I might cut a little off. But if it's something that requires work and it's going to, you know, a lot of the stuff we do a ton of hoodies. Yeah. Even still, it's hot out. We do a ton of hoodies, and I charge for it because our hoodie prints, you know, they're like t-shirts.
Yeah.
They're not thick. They're smooth. They're clean.
Nice, dude.
And that's why people bring it to us. So I'm a firm believer of charging for what you're worth.
Yeah, man. I love that.
Even if you lose customers, I've lost customers over price, and I lost about a year and a half ago. I lost our at the time was our largest customer.
Yeah.
Over price, and it almost sank us.
That sucks, dude.
It sucks, but we lost them over price.
Well, let me ask.
It took 9 months, and they came back.
Oh, good. Well, let me ask you a question about that. You know, I've recently went through a transition, because when I got into it, I was the piece of shit that was undercutting everybody. Because in my mind, I thought, and then when I finally wisened up and talked to Marshall of all people, and I kind of changed my mindset on it. But did you ever go and you know, I basically lost my customer. It was almost like I'm starting over, because I lost the bottom feeder customer base and I had to acquire a new one. Did you ever go through anything like that? Were you ever too cheap and then you realized and you wisened up, or were you always kind of more expensive?
All the time, especially when you're starting out.
Yeah.
You know, you go and I'm just going to throw an arbitrary number out there, but let's say you've got a 600-piece hoodie job, 6 colors, and you're running a manual.
Yeah.
It's what caused me to buy an auto, that exact job. I had 6 color on dark hoodies on a 6-color manual, and it was 2 sides. And when I was done printing that thing, I looked at what I was making per hour. And from the beginning, we always did our pricing like we had rent for a shop. That's the biggest mistake that printers make. They think, oh, well, I'm here at my house. Uh-huh. You know, I can charge $2 less a t-shirt than the next cheapest guy who has a shop in town. Well, you know, if you're actually taking this serious and you want to take it to the next level and get into a real shop, not that a garage isn't a real shop, but it's not at the same level, you have to be able to afford rent.
Yeah.
You have to be able to afford utilities. You have to be able to afford a press payment. So if you go in and the cheapest guy in town is $7 for that print, and you go in at $5, well, guess what? That customer is going to come back every single time. And then when you go to $7, they're going to bail.
That's what happened to me. That's exactly the scenario. Yeah.
Well, I did it, and that's why I know it happens.
Yep.
So
yeah. See, it's
I went
funny.
through it too.
Well, yeah, it's the progression of becoming a real business owner and a real
I mean,
printer.
like, I know most of the stuff I know because I've screwed it up.
Right. That's the thing, man. Yeah. I love that, man. Son of a bitch. I'm reading my list here because, it's funny. I like going off on tangents too, but I also want to stay on track here.
Yeah.
When you were a manual printer for a long time, but then when you finally kind of switched over to the automatic, is that when you actually noticed like an increase in? Was there a big increase in quality or obviously production? But
definitely an increase in quality. My very first auto, because I didn't know any better, I picked up a Javelin, and I actually look back at that and think, okay, that actually was one of the smarter things that I've done, because we were putting out prints on this. We, figured out how to use this Javelin with a V squeegee and make it look like it printed from an M&R or from an MHM, or Rock wasn't around at the time.
Yeah.
Or at least in the States, but you couldn't tell who printed that on what machine. We spent a lot of time tweaking it, and we figured out how to use that thing. So once I outgrew that thing, I had it for a good year and a half, and we actually were running production on this thing for a pretty major clothing line we started doing overflow work for.
Okay.
And we quickly maxed out that thing.
Yeah.
Because they can't run super fast per hour.
Right.
And I ended up buying that old Challenger I was telling you about.
Yeah. When
we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
And upgrading. Once I went to that Challenger, then the quality really stepped up.
But kind of toughen through that kind of, I guess I do not like trashing any brands or anything like that, but toughing through like an older kind of inferior press made you really appreciate it when you had.
Oh, totally. Once I was able to get side-to-side squeegee control, it was a game changer.
Right.
V squeegee on a center pivot on an old, it was a 90, I'm going to say it was a 93 or 94 Javelin.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a tank.
Yeah. You've seen it. You see them around. They pop up. They're very affordable to kind of get into and stuff like that. So.
Oh, yeah. I bought this thing in Northern California. We put it on the back of a car trailer, drove it home in the middle of the night, completely assembled, taking up 2 lanes of the road. We literally set it in the shop, leveled it, plugged it in, and we beat the shit out of this thing taking it home.
I bet, dude.
On the freeway, on the 101.
Pallets all crooked and shit.
Completely registered.
Wow.
Put it up, leveled it, fired it up, and it held perfect registration.
So in terms of reliability with that, even that press, right? Like it was a tank. It just had it lacked features in terms of control.
Correct. It lacked control features, but you could make up for it by using different squeegee blades and
gotcha.
Playing around with the angles and modifying some of the air cylinders. And
right on.
We tweaked it.
So what are some other things that you did as you're growing that you felt increased your final print quality? What are some practices you started using, or screen types, mesh counts, inks, whatever? Kind of run down the list.
Early on, when I was still printing on a manual, I started using thin threads.
Yeah. How really? Some time ago?
Yeah, I've been using thin threads for a long time.
No kidding.
I'm a big advocate for thin thread mesh.
Yeah.
Especially if you're printing with a manual.
Yeah, dude. It changed our life, man. It made us not dread white.
Yeah, it's a whole different ball game. And then you got to buy good ink. That's just you see most of what people's problems are with their prints. Most of the time it's not the ink. They've got loose screens. Right. They're using the wrong mesh choice. I won't bash the pushers too bad, but they push.
Yeah. Well, I actually want to dive into all that stuff. So, but you did just mention something there, and I think that would be just a perfect segue into the start of the series of questions I have for you, and that is in regards to ink. And again, I hate like promoting a particular brand, but sometimes that's just the case. So if you wouldn't mind talking about maybe the inks and some of the brands that you prefer and why.
Okay.
Do you need to do something right quick?
Yeah, they have them stay. No, we're good.
Cool.
So if you looked at my ink section, you'd see pretty much every brand out there.
Okay. Interesting.
I take the best of what each manufacturer makes, and we mad scientist them together.
Interesting. Okay. So you're not off the shelf in really much.
I am I use a Wilflex color mixing system.
Yeah, we like that. You use the PC or do you use the MS?
I'm actually using the Epic.
Oh yeah.
Still stuck on the Epic with using Amazing Base.
Right. It's good,
the Epic
right?
is nice because most of the pigments are curable. So if the guys overload the pigment, you're not going to have to worry about it.
Yep.
Washing out.
Yeah.
It makes good color.
Yeah, it's good. I like it.
Discharge, I have actually resting my foot on a Matsui 5-gallon. I use Matsui, Magna, Rutland, all three mixed together.
What? Interesting. Okay.
To make our own little super system.
Yeah, for a while we were using, which was very strange, for our discharge whites. We were of all things, Union discharge white, and we were adding a Matsui base to it just to trim it up a little bit, so it wasn't so concretey. So what you're kind of advocating though is that your shop, it sounds like it's kind of difficult to just get an out of the container solution that works based on whatever your flow is.
For most of our colors, yeah. I mean, we've created a scientific mess.
Yeah.
I do use my whites. I use the whites straight out of the bucket.
Can you talk about plastisol white for a second? I'm sure you see it. That's the question. I mean, everyone who's starting out,
everybody asks.
It's the question, and it's the question. So you answer it 1,000 times, you're going to answer it 1,000 times more. But hit us.
Well, I mean, my go-to is Quick White from Wilflex for a base.
Quick White.
Highlight white, I'll use, depending on what I'm doing, what mesh counts, international coatings. The hell is it? Legacy white.
Okay.
It's a nice opaque bright white. Sometimes I'll use Bright Tiger. Bright Tiger is actually a highlight white. It's what it's made for.
Bright Tiger is, huh? Okay.
Yeah, it's a white that has optical brighteners in it. So it's made to be a highlight white. It's not a good base white.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so Bright Tiger white is kind of your highlight white. What are you using if you're just doing a print flash print?
Very, very rare I'll do a print flash print.
What do you do? Print flash highlight?
Print flash highlight.
Okay.
Different screen meshes.
Yeah.
We rarely ever put the same screen mesh on top of each other.
Interesting.
I mean, if it's 12 pieces, I'm going to go around twice. But if it's more than that, and depending on the customer, my whole thing is I print a print job is if I'm going to have to print it down the road for 1,000 pieces.
Right.
And so
that makes sense.
You see a lot of people where they flash print the base. Then they print a color on top and they flash it. Then they print another color on top of that and they flash it. Then they print another color on top of that and they flash it. And then the customer comes back and orders 1,500 pieces.
Right.
Guess who's screwed on production day?
Right.
So we set them up and run it like if we were going to run it as a production job. Because we do sampling for customers. So we're already in that mindset. Someone, a lot of our customers, they're going to pay us between $300 and $500 to sample 6 pieces so that they can send them to their purchasers, or they can just look at it and make sure that before they drop 20 grand on a PO that they like what it's going to look like.
Right.
And that's part of us dealing with the picky people.
Right, and that makes sense too. So if you were going to give a piece of advice to somebody, it's just like start like it's going to be that kind of production run anyway. And the print flash highlight does the result is nicer in most cases as well.
You get a cleaner print.
Yeah.
You get especially if it's a high detailed print. I mean, I use a highlight white all the time.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, especially manual printers. Like you cringe at the thought of it, but
Oh yeah, it's another color you got to register, and if you
yeah,
don't have a good press that registers well,
yeah,
I understand it. I get it. I was there. I mean, I don't want to bash. I don't care. I'll bash it. I had a joystick reg press,
yeah, that fucking
and
thing.
I wanted to. I don't know how many times I wanted to tie it to my truck and drag it down the street.
Yeah, yeah,
You know those things. That was one of the. That's if you had to ask me what was the worst purchase I ever did, was buying a Riley Hopkins joystick press.
yeah. Those were a mistake across the board.
It's a mistake across the board.
Yeah.
Now, when you get it registered, it held registration.
Well, that's good.
But we run such tight registration because I can't stand seeing a halo over a base. That's like a pet peeve of mine. You see the halo, it's like, okay, what's going on? So like when I hear people say that they're choking something 1 point, I'm sitting there, looking at my monitor like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's a constant battle for us. You know what? That's actually fun. I want to talk to you about some technical questions with that then. With art, so do you primarily separate, obviously if it's simulated in Photoshop, but if it's a spot color job, a vector graphic, will you separate it via spot colors in Illustrator, or will you still bounce it in to Photoshop and sep it that way?
For me, it's time. If I'm looking at a piece of art, somebody's got 20 different clipping masks, and even though it's simple spot color, but there's a bunch of compound paths where they're, you go in there and put a stroke around it, you've got all kinds of gutters all through the art. I'm going to take it and spend less than 5 minutes in Photoshop and pull it in at 600, 1200 DPI and sep it real quick, and then put it back in Illustrator as an EPS, and
there you go,
and rip my films.
Yeah.
Everything for me is about time.
Gotcha.
How can I do it faster? How can I do it more accurate?
Yeah.
And doing it that way is how I do it. I prefer it. If it's simple, I'll just go into Illustrator and bust it out real quick. But majority of the time, no, it goes into Photoshop, because there's also things that I'll do if there's colors that are wet on wet next to each other. I'm gonna take leading edges of stuff, and I might choke back the leading edge where the squeegee is going to pull down. And I won't choke the whole part of the print, but I'll choke the bottom part of a circle.
Yeah.
Where the squeegee wants to push that ink and maybe make it bleed a little bit.
Right.
I'll clean up little areas like that to keep the print clean on certain substrates. Like today, we're printing these 100% poly microfiber running shirts. And on those, you got to do it because you have the little micro holes, and ink, as it prints, tries to work its way down in those holes. So if you do on all the leading edges, you put a little 1 point choke underneath them. You fight the dot gain.
And when you say leading edge, you mean where the squeegee is going to first contact the bottom of the art as it's starting to initiate the
exactly print. Any of your straight edges. So if you're, where the hell is this?
Yeah.
So if this is the bottom of your letter and your squeegee is coming down, I might choke it down here.
Just a little bit on that edge. Introduction, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know it's overkill on some stuff, but a lot of that, we print a lot of these running shirts.
Right.
So
ultimately, you're spending a little more time in the art room, but it saves you a bunch of headaches out there on press.
Right. They're not stopping wiping screens down. They're not having to sit there and fudge the registration to fight the dot gain and stuff like that. So
that's beautiful, man.
Little tweaks.
Yeah, I love that. Oh man, I feel like we should almost do like a whole thing on art prep. That would be cool. Dive in and show some motherfuckers, dude. Show them a little something. What do you think about the artwork in relation to screens and frames, man? Are you a static frame guy? Or are you a roller frame guy? Do you mix them and match them?
Mix them and match them. As long as you have good statics, then you can mix a good static. If you got a static that's sitting at 25 newtons, you can put it with a roller at 25 newtons. It's going to be fine.
Dude, I don't see, people have said that there's a few companies that are doing high tension statics, but do you have to send those out, or do you guys stretch yourself?
No, I stretch all the rollers. I actually do the stretching myself. The statics, I'll give a little shout out to them, but Nortec has been making some really nice statics.
And they're holding like 20 after production. Can they get it? Will they stay around 20 after?
I've got several of them sitting here at 27.
Interesting.
On thin thread mesh.
Yeah, that's a cool. I think that's a good shout out, man. So that's where we got to start going too, baby.
Yeah, it's 20. It's probably past what this mesh. It's 157 hydro from Saudi, and it's a little stronger, so it can handle the higher tension. But I'd like to see it settle down around 25.
Yeah,
keeps a little bit more longevity when people beat them up in the shop. But
dude, traditional static frames, even if they are thin thread, like if they haven't been stretched to high tension, dude, we'll be at like 15 and 12s on some of these things, man.
Oh, a lot of mine are, and that's,
sucks.
For discharge, it's okay. Your biggest thing is if you're doing plastisol, you want high tension, and you want thin threads.
Yeah.
If you're doing water base doesn't have to have 25 to 35 newtons to get a good shear. Water base, most of my discharge stuff that we do, they're all my old static frames.
Right. Okay. All the raggedy shit.
Even the HSA, we're running on old static frames.
Okay.
Doesn't make a difference what it's. I put it on 40 newton rollers, and the print is identical to a 15 to 18 150S mess.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. So, and that's the thing too. It's just because plastisol has such a high resistance when it's trying to push through that it has a tendency to pull the mesh in front of the squeegee, right?
Yeah, you can do that. And with us, we use a pre-reg system, so
that's what I was gonna.
Everything in check with each other.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask you. So like I tried kind of adopting the M&R Trilock system here a while ago, and it was a complete failure. And I tried to eliminate as many of the variables as possible, but if your tensions aren't correct and in line, right, within the same tensions throughout the meshes, are you gonna have pre-registration problems?
Yes.
Yeah.
You are. If your frames aren't within 2 newtons of each other, you're going to have issues.
Yeah.
Now the Trilock isn't perfect, but it does damn good when you have all your right variables. I mean, there are times where I've gone out there and guys were complaining that I was doing a bad job on setting up the films, and that because they're all out of registration. So I went out the next day and I set up 7 jobs for them, and 2 of them I touched the micros, and they were all 3 screens or more. And we had a good day, and that's when we had a ton of nice high-tension rollers in circulation. And it actually works, but you've got to have your stuff dialed.
Gotcha.
You're not going to throw a 15-newton frame in with a 30-newton frame and have your print line up.
Right. And the reason is because the emulsions on the softer meshes pucker that mesh, right, once it dries, and it causes alignment issues and shit like that.
There's a little bit. What most people do is they end up shrinking their emulsion if they're doing post-exposure.
Yeah, okay.
You set it out in the sun when there's too much moisture in it. It'll do that. What you run into is the elongation of the screen when it goes to print, and you're dragging that ink on the screen. People don't realize how much force those are actually, even manually, how much force you're actually putting on that screen.
Right.
When you're dragging it. So if it's 15 newtons and your base screen is at 30, your color is going to be out of reg.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And with us, as tight as we run artwork, it's really important.
What kind of points are you getting down to that like 0.5 or 0.25 chokes? Are you keeping?
Oh yeah, I don't do anything more than 0.5.
Yeah, I mean, so we're doing 0.5 now, and we've been trying to get a 0.25, but it's not going well. We're working on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's tricks you can play with it too. Is you can overexpose a little
to
help that.
Hang on, we lost you. Hang on. Testing.
0.25 tough. Let's go. Oh.
Testing.
Back.
Yep. There you go. Okay, yeah, one more time.
Somebody walked in and was blocking my signal, I guess.
Hey, bro.
You got to really have your stuff dialed to be 0.25.
Yeah, it's tough. We're not.
We keep up on our equipment. I accidentally burned a screen not too long ago, and I accidentally burned the base twice. I wasn't paying attention. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. Run it. We can hold it. Just change this squeegee and change the angle on here. And my one press off was like,
Bigfoot? Is that you?
yeah,
Sasquatch?
one of my rollers falling on the ground.
Okay.
We actually printed it and used the dot gain alone, and it held it.
Wow.
And
so that, but that was the undercutting was like a kind of sort of in a way mimicking a choke because it got double exposed. So it was cutting under a little bit. Interesting.
Yeah. So it we ran that job, and if your equipment is tuned and you have it maintained, you can run super tight choke or no choke, and just use dot gain. Dot gain can be your friend or enemy.
So when you're saying something about like when you say dot gain, so that means like you would like run enough of them to where there's gain on the outside of it and it's kind of closing around it basically.
Exactly. It's wrapping around the very edge of that white base.
How do you initiate dot gain? And will you do a pass of 6 or something? How can you initiate it to get the first batch of? You know what I mean? You understand?
Hard flood.
Just a hard flood.
You can do a harder flood. You can do a little more of an angle.
Okay.
Pressure.
Okay. So you may even initiate dot gain by like hitting it higher pressure for the first 6, and then you back it off to the right thing, and now you're good.
Yeah, you start backing it off once your ink starts to flow and starts to mechanically loosen up.
See, these are the kind of little things that you got to hear, man. You know what's funny as a printer? I feel like even for myself, and I'm a manual shop, small, but you're always trying to remove as many variables as possible. But it seems like no matter who I talk to, the screen printing is a series of constant adjustments. Nothing can just be set and forget, right? You can't do it.
No, nothing is set and forget. And your inks as you print, especially if you have a flash, your ink's viscosity and opacity changes as temperatures go up. So you can have, for instance, quick white. Quick white will, once it starts to warm up, its opacity will go away a little bit. And you know how to fight that by, maybe slowing your squeegee pressure down a little bit. And every ink does it. It's not anybody that tells you their ink doesn't do it, just doesn't understand what's going on with their ink. All inks change viscosity and opacity as they heat up. And
they have operating temperatures as well, right? A lot of them
they have operating temperatures. And if you see probably 95% of problems people have with whites, they're not at operating temperature.
Right.
I mean, you can beat the shit out of an ink all you want to, and if that ink is still 70 degrees when you put it in the screen, it's going to print like it's 70 degrees.
Yeah.
Ink wants to be, depending on the ink, it wants to be 90 to 105.
Interesting.
100. You can get it up to, sometimes when the palettes are super hot, we'll watch the opacity come in and out. And in quick white, all the way up to 135 degrees, where that ink is screwed. I mean, that's scorching in the screen.
And are your pressmen constantly making adjustments in pressure and angle to offset this stuff, or do you guys take it to that level of detail where you're backing things off as it's starting to slim down?
On long runs, yes. As you're watching your prints, yes, you will take and start adjusting pressure.
Interesting.
Especially, the job today that was on the polys. As we print it, the ink is tight. But as you start running it, your ink loosens up.
Yeah. And
you have to start backing off pressure because now you're laying down color on top of a solid base on top of a poly shirt.
Yeah.
So if you want to control your dot gain and not smash your print out, you got to start backing it off as you go.
Understood.
Especially with poly whites.
Yeah, they're the worst.
Poly whites are so tight, and then once they start warming up, and that's where knowing what your ink does and what your palette temperature is, you can control that. You can control it by as simple as, let's say you have to flash it a second. It's just that you have to. You can start controlling your palette temp with a fan.
Right.
You can even control the ink temp. Put a fan on your ink, blowing in the screen.
Yeah. So especially like in Phoenix, right? Like here in Phoenix, the struggle is actually the heat.
Is the heat, yeah.
Things getting so high, it's so hot all the goddamn time.
Right, your ink is at 100 degrees before it's going in the screen.
Yeah, it runs at that, dude.
I mean, it happens. It happens here too. When in the summer, we're 105 in the shop, and you know, in the morning your print's looking great. So then you start backing off pressure and playing with it, and then the guys will go to lunch and they'll come back and, hey, the screen isn't clearing very well. Yeah, your ink cooled back down. So
yeah. See, that's it's fucked up, man. What is your opinion on the whole roller frame thing? In terms of new, how do you feel about bringing them in? Are they worth the headache in dealing with
personally,
them?
I believe they're worth the headache.
Okay.
Like I said, the guys that I follow and see their work, they're printing on roller frames. You look at stuff like what Lon Winters does, that when he's posting stuff up in his shop, they're roller frames. Andy Anderson runs roller frames. I actually had roller frames when I was in the garage. I bought 6 of them off of Craigslist.
Yeah.
And learned how to stretch them and started using thin thread on them. And that's what really set us apart, was jumping on that right away with tight screens.
Yeah.
And our whole spiel was, I didn't want anybody to know we didn't have an auto, because then we were having people come to us and wanting us to do work, brokers, stuff like that. And then they start acting, some of them would act like they're a big shot and they want to know how big of a shop you have. Mm-hmm. And some of them are wanting you to know how big of a shop you have because they're actually really going to stick a 10,000 piece order with you.
Right.
So we used to have a bunch of prints hanging up in the front office, and we would literally tell people, if you can pick which is printed on an auto and which was printed manually, we'll give you 50% off your order.
Yeah.
And people used to laugh, and they would sit here and try and pick out what was done on the auto. And in reality, I had one print up on the wall out of about 15 that were done on an auto.
Yeah.
The rest were all done on a manual. And it was nice because then they trust you. They're like, okay, you can do the good work. Gotcha. It might take you 3 times as long because you're printing it by hand, but you can do it.
Yeah, and that's kind of how you introduced yourself into it into the bigger stuff. You gave yourself an
learning how to. I feel that learning how to print on a manual is the best thing you can do.
I love that.
If you plan on getting an automatic, you have to know how to. In my opinion, you're a better printer if you know how to print on a manual.
There you go. That's good
because
stuff.
You can literally walk up and look at a machine and go, "That's why that's printing wrong."
Right. Yeah,
because you know it, because you've done it. You've tried every angle. You've pressure and speed. Because the machine will repeat it every single time, and if it's repeating it wrong, it's going to repeat it wrong every time. It doesn't know any better. It's not like a human where it can correct itself.
Right. That's one of the benefits. I think one of the downfalls of the automatic is that, though, right? Because as a manual, you can kind of adjust your angle, to kind of pull diagonally if you need to kind of close it off. With the automatics, you do not have
if your
that
hair
luxury.
Off a ridge, just a little drag on the side. And
with the manual, you don't got that. Or I'm sorry, let's get our words correct. With an auto, you don't have that luxury. Is that
that's where the importance is of maintaining your equipment.
Okay.
People say, "Oh, I don't want to pay a tech. It's going to cost $1,000 for M&R to come out here and do this," or whoever, Rock, whatever. It costs $1,000 to get a tech out for the day. Well, if you think about it, it cost you more than that in a week of screwing with it.
Dude.
It's just like with the whites. A lot of people ask me what white I use, and I tell them, and they're like, "Holy shit, that stuff's, crazy expensive." It is more expensive. But when my guys go out there and I can run jobs for a week and never touch the angle, we literally load the screen and print. All that time I'm saving just made up that extra $100 for that 5 gallons.
Yeah, I don't really understand. I've never understood the argument of when people are complaining about even like with emulsions and stuff. Like if it's $20 more per whatever, it doesn't make sense because on each garment it's pennies. It's nothing.
Cents. Yeah.
Cents. Yeah. So like
and on a large run, it's not even that. Especially if you're doing discharge.
Yeah, man.
and you don't run a good emulsion, on an auto, if you're running 600-700 pieces an hour on an auto, and your screen breaks down, guess how many shirts are screwed up before that person at the back of the dryer is jumping up and down and screaming?
You're right, man.
You got a dryer full, everything on the press. So that $10 you saved on your emulsion, you just dropped 100 on shirts.
That's right. And how do you guys handle that when something does go awry? Do you just get on with your supplier and you get it reordered right away? Or do you make the clients eat it?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We've screwed up enough stuff that we're pretty good at not messing it up now.
Nice.
So, I mean, you learn from it. You learn really quickly that you don't tape the bottoms of your discharge screens, that you don't tape off reg marks when you're doing water base. You block them out, waterproof blockout.
Yeah.
You learn that when your order that's due tomorrow morning, you just printed 25 shirts where the reg mark broke through. You don't put your reg marks next to the artwork. Reg marks doesn't matter whether your reg mark is 6 inches from the art or a half an inch from the art. But if you're printing discharge, put that thing 6 inches from the art.
Yeah.
That 5 inches of film you're going to save saves you nothing when you spend more than that on a whole roll by screwing up 20 shirts.
Yeah, because the reg marks pop through. And like with the tapes and stuff like that, too, it's because – so even if you have those high-end emulsions, it still absorbs some sort of water, and then the tape starts to get gummy and it starts falling off, right?
Well, what happens is your emulsion is going to break down where the edge of your tape is.
You're right, okay.
And it's because the emulsion sits here as the squeegee goes over it. Your emulsion is sitting here doing this, where that tape line is. And eventually that emulsion is going to crack. And what happens is you're going to get moisture through that before you're going to get pigment. Right. And then what's in the moisture is your discharge agent. So before you know it, the guy at the back of the dryer, they have 500-600 shirts an hour coming at them.
Yeah.
They're in robot mode just looking at the print, and they don't realize that 3 inches down below the print, there's a ghost line starting to pop up until they see pigment, or it's bright enough to where they're like, we got to stop.
Interesting, dude.
And the guy on the press can't see it because it hasn't discharged yet.
That's right.
And it's clear.
Yeah. How do you handle block? So because blockout is just, it's not waterproof. Do they have a waterproof blockout, or do you block out with them? They do. Yeah.
Actually, the one I use, there's no label on it, but it's Saudi.
So is that just emulsion, though?
No, it's actually a waterproof blockout.
That's good to know. Waterproof blockout from Saudi?
From Saudi.
Good to goddamn know. Blockout. Okay.
And it actually holds up pretty well when they're printing over the reg marks.
Really? Even if you are dragging over them, huh?
Even if they are dragging over them.
But again, at the end of the day, you should really be shooting to get yourself 5 inches away from that, especially on these water-based discharge jobs.
Always. Always tape the top of your screen.
Do you use that same principle even when you're doing plastisol jobs at this point? Do you still keep it pretty far away?
No, it depends. A lot of our plastisol jobs are large prints, so I'll put them an inch away or so.
You don't got that
luxury. We're putting tape on the bottom anyway.
Gotcha. Love it, man. Dude, that was a nice tip right there. Okay, the polyester stuff, man. If we can talk about that. I know that we've already been going for an hour, but if we could just dive into some polyester tips and tricks, that would be sweet. Because it kicks everyone's ass all the time.
So polyester, in my opinion, is easier to print on now than the blends.
Okay, well then let's talk about blends as well.
So poly, as long as you're using a good poly white, you're going to be pretty safe. Okay. Good poly white with a low cure, you'll be pretty safe.
Okay.
I always suggest, though, testing it. I'll usually set it up and run it, and then throw it through the dryer a little hotter than we'd normally run it. Let it sit overnight, see what it's going to do. That's a decent test, but honestly, it can bleed 2 weeks from now. It can bleed a month from now.
Yeah, I know.
And there's nothing you can do about it. So there's a lot of blockers being run around here now.
So you guys are just you're just adopting blocker across the board pretty much?
For a lot of the cheaper polyesters, some of the stuff from Sanmar is pretty good. It doesn't bleed. But anything that you get that is you can't really identify. Unfortunately, I'm close enough to the LA garment district that some of our customers will go down there and buy shit from down there.
Right.
And it'll say it's 100% cotton on the tag, and you're looking at the thing going, yeah, right, this is polyester.
Right.
You literally light it on fire, and it's like burning plastic.
Wow, man. It's all that stuff on a lot of the time it'll have like no label or some weird label.
Yeah, no label but we have a lot of brokers that run down there and grab that stuff and bring it up here. And
okay.
I've had stuff catch on fire on press, literally burst into flames when it flashed.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to print on.
Are you blocking? So I'm I'm more familiar with the concept of blockers when it comes to water-based and stuff like that. But are you blocking with plastisols?
Yes.
You are.
Yeah.
Okay. And that if you're just trying to safeguard yourself as a printer and a polyester job comes through, like just make the extra screen, right?
Just make the extra screen.
Just block the damn thing.
I had a customer that I ran some stuff for. They're a pretty big clothing line, and it's a 60-40, 60 cotton, 40 poly. Mm-hmm. We print them all the time. Next Level, Bella, all those, and we don't really run into an issue.
Yeah.
We ran low cured them at 300. Mm-hmm. Came in the next morning, they were gray.
Yep, that just happened to us too, dude. On the American Apparel 50/50.
Yeah, and luckily, these are China custom cut and sew China blanks that our customer runs. So now everything that we run that came from China that they use, it all gets a blocker.
All the time.
Every job. The 60-40s have bled. We've had their tri-blends bleed.
Yeah.
So all of their stuff is getting blockers now.
So that sounds like the advice, man. Just block that shit. That's
a good test. So here's a good test. I'll share this one.
Yeah.
A lot of the die sets are.
Dude, it's almost like you said I'll share this, and Skype was like, no, you won't.
No, you
got
won't.
right the hell out. All right, try that again.
So right now, there's a lot of the manufacturers are being pushed to get shirts out. So they're not die setting all this stuff the right way. So you can take not hot, but room temperature water, put it in a cup. Oh, you froze up.
Yeah, bro, we're freezing all over the place. Give it a sec. Let's see what's happening here. Okay, try it again.
Okay. All right, so take a cup of water that is room temperature and soak a shirt in it for about 10 minutes. Pull that shirt out, wring it out into the cup. Look at the water.
Right.
It's bad with Next Level. Next Levels, you're getting on their 60-40 blacks, you're going to get brown water.
Yeah.
Bella, I got black iced tea. The shit was black. And these are all shirts that are starting to migrate on everyone, especially the guys that are using water base.
Yeah, man, it's a problem. It is.
Because now you're running water in here, which now you're steaming that dye into your ink as that water evaporates.
Yeah.
So, for these other 60-40s, we run a black blocker, then 2 white screens, and all the...
I think we're still good. I think you're all right.
We're good.
Okay.
And we're running a catalyst and curing it at 250 degrees.
Yeah, we're doing all that stuff as well. The one we did just 2 hits of white on a 50 and it bled, but we low cured it at 290 and it bled right through though.
The blockers are, I think blockers are a must for everybody going forward.
I agree. So I think that's the takeaway, guys. Like you just, if you're doing polyester, you need to strongly consider adding that screen and blocking it. That's going to be the
or
best
silicone. Run silicone.
Now I don't know anything about the silicone stuff, man.
So silicone's nice. Silicone will actually migrate, and it'll scare the living shit out of you. The first time it happened to me on some digital camo, and because silicone's not supposed to bleed, I printed it and ran it through the dryer, and I was like, "Holy shit, what's going on with this?" Called my rep, who luckily does a lot of stuff for Under Armour and Nike, and he goes, "Oh yeah, just leave it. Come back tomorrow. You'll be fine."
Wow.
And sure as shit, I came back in the next morning, and it all had off-gassed out of the ink.
So it picks it up, but it won't hold those gases. It
Doesn't hold it.
It expels them.
Yeah.
It won't hold them in.
Expels
Wow.
the dye. So,
But what are some of the complications with silicone? Why is everybody not just? I mean, obviously it's great for polyesters and stuff. Again, I don't know nothing about it, but why not use it on cottons and stuff like that as well?
well, silicone like polyester ink or like poly ink, it's not made to mat down fibers.
Okay, it won't do it.
So you end up with sandpaper prints.
Yeah, that's
So
can't do that.
no. So and that's exactly what people are putting poly inks on stuff that they shouldn't be putting poly inks on, and they're getting sandpaper prints because those inks aren't made to mat down these fibers.
Yeah.
On a 60-40 or a tri-blend.
Well, I love that you brought that up because actually that was a post that I saw in the Facebook group, and you were kind of talking about this fiber matting and just battling. And you had even mentioned that, like, dude, if you're doing it right, you don't even need to do a roller squeegee. You don't need a smoothing pass. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I actually run rollers. Mm-hmm. We run smoothing screens on everything.
Okay.
And it was something that I think I discovered right after I got the Javelin, actually, because it was a small press, and we were always setting up a job right after the flash. Mm-hmm. And one day I set up a job without it, and I couldn't figure out, why does this not look that great? Mm-hmm. What's going on here? And then we muscled through the job. It turned out good enough. And then we've set up another job, and I started looking at the base, and I was like, then the light bulb went off. Holy shit, that screen is pushing these fibers back down. So we started running a screen full of, at the time I got a hold of some non-curable reducer.
Yeah.
Because I was using everything, grease, clear base, whatever I could stick in there that it wouldn't cure right after the flash, because the Javelin had aluminum pallets with no rubber. Okay. So they would get hotter than the sun.
Oh, wow.
With 2 flashes on a 6 color.
Yeah.
And we've been smoothing stuff ever since. And
yeah, but
I ended up getting a roller.
You got one. Is that better than the squeegee with the stuff in it?
It's hard to say. I personally think a squeegee is better.
Kind of creates more friction, right? It creates that downward pressure you need to really mat it down.
Yeah, it puts a different type of pressure than the roller.
Right, I agree.
I just ran the BWM roller for probably 50,000 impressions, and that one actually worked pretty good.
The Hopkins?
Yeah, Hopkins is making a smoothing roller now. It's all stainless.
The roller it is? It's not using the silicone?
Yeah, there's no silicone on it.
Interesting.
So you run less pressure on your smoothing screen head.
Yeah. And also, does it? I don't know if this would work, but does it absorb some of the pallet heat, which kind of creates like a?
It does, but I'm not sure that it makes that big of a difference.
Nah, interesting though. Very cool.
Now, if you could heat that roller, that would be one thing.
That'd be sweet. Yeah, dude. Let me think about anything else with that. So flashing. Can we talk about flashing right quick? I'm gonna get you out of here, dude, but I want to extract. I feel like the flash is one of it's the bane of most printers' existence, actually, especially when you're trying to figure it all out. What are we doing?
And most people's problems.
What are we doing wrong?
Over flashing.
So everyone's over flashing.
Well, yeah. If you ever watch, oh, there we go. We're
in and out, baby.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Most people over flash. And if you ever watch, if you got time, print an underbase, and then put it underneath your flash.
Okay.
And sit there and watch it, like up close.
Okay.
You're gonna look like a goofball sticking your nose under your flash, but watch what it does to the fibers. Okay. When you over flash, your fibers come back up. And you can actually sit there and physically see them grow. I'll have to see if I can. I don't know if I have it anymore, but I actually filmed it with my phone one day in slow motion of a flash. And you can literally see the fibers go back up.
No kidding. Yeah, I've never actually studied it and looked at it.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I figured that out one time. It was when I still had my regular IR panel flashes. And we were running a job that was taking a little bit longer to load. and the flashes were pulled in on the auto, and so they were sitting there flashing these bases while we were trying to load these garments.
Okay.
And we're like, what the hell is going on? Even with a smoothing screen, the next flash is causing these fibers because we're getting it so hot.
Gotcha.
And a lot of people do that too with the manual.
Yeah,
They're over flashing.
I think so. It's been brought up to us a couple of times. And you said something earlier, and my mind was like, what the shit? And you see autos doing it all the time, but you said like 1 second flashes and shit.
Oh, today I think we were flashing probably 0.7.
That is crazy to me, though. So
it's all about pallet temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Most people print with their pallets too cold.
So you're going through, you're preheating them. So will you guys, even on an auto, will you do like a couple passes under that and get them up to temp before you even start?
Oh yeah, it's fired up first thing in the morning.
Okay.
When I come in, even if there's not a job on the press, and I know the first job on the press is going to be running white ink as a base, I'll actually preheat the pallets for the guys. I'll fire up the autos, and they'll be sitting here spinning.
Okay, and we've talked
when they walk in.
We've talked about with Jesse from Matsui a couple times about this, but do you have an average temperature you're trying to maintain on these pallets before it hits the flash?
About 115 to 125 degrees is what I like to try and.
So if you can maintain that around the carousel, by the time it goes back under the flash the next time.
Well, when you're running in production, you're up into the 150s.
Oh, you are.
You are when you're running, especially if you're running a job that has 2-3 flashes on it.
Okay.
It's I mess it up again.
Hey, this is live, baby. You can't hide this fugazi.
Hey, we all screw up. It's how we learn.
That's what people have to accept in this industry, is that you are going to screw up.
Yep.
But so, the flash still, dude, it's still a mystery to me too. I'm constantly trying to figure it out. Do you need to deal with this?
I'm not sure. Do I need to? Is there something wrong? Or the little piece?
One of the logos, I'm getting like a halo. Okay, it's supposed to be the little lines.
Oh yeah, those little lines are supposed to be there. You gotta love sponsorship logos.
Yeah, baby.
That are 1 inch long and have all kinds of detail.
How many of them you have to deal with? Are there
15 of them on this shirt.
Oh, I cringe. I just won't do them. I won't do them.
Yeah. Here, since I am in the screen room.
Yeah.
Did
most of them come to you okay, or were all of them like little PNGs?
No, this one was good. It's just the problem is when they're 0.05 of a stroke.
Gosh, dude.
You got to go in there and clean them up, and
it's tight. So with the flash, you're talking about overheating. So now we're talking about maintaining pallet temperatures. Try to keep it around 120.
120. I'm in 120 to 135 is where we like to run them.
If you can maintain that, you're good. If you're starting to go above that, you need to start figuring out how to cool those things down a little bit. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, we'll run fans.
Okay. So now when it comes to the actual flash, I would like to just, if we can, talk a little bit about plastisol and water-based flashing based on your experience. What temperatures you need to be hitting in the flash, and based on that temperature, what times? Can you go that specific, or is that too complex?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So as far as temperature,
for water-based
our newer ones reg the temperature. They have a sensor, so they tell us what the temp is.
Yeah.
We're trying to stay 200.
200 on the. Is that for plastisol and water-based?
Water-based, we actually will cut them down even more than that. So that's where pallet temp is really key, is on water base.
Yeah. You
can actually literally flash water base. If your pallets are hot enough, water base will flash itself by the time it makes it. So if you put, for instance, on our 12 color, we put the base in the first head, flashes in the second head. If we have those pallets warm enough, by the time it gets around to the highlight screen on head 12, you can touch it. It's not transferring ink. It's flashed.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we try to do, this is something that we're only figuring out now, is that when you're even like us, man, running it too high, running it too long, you actually have a tendency for lift up even on the screens when you're doing wet on wet. But when you drop them down, it seems counterproductive. It doesn't make sense to me. So why does it happen that when you get too hot that you get lifting and all this other stuff? But
it's a heat stick. So your ink, like I said, as you increase the temperature of your inks, the viscosity changes, and so you get heat stick on the press.
That's what it is.
And you start noticing it. That's how I notice it when we sit here, and I'm always listening. So even if I'm in here doing films and screens, I'm listening to what these presses are doing.
Okay.
You can tell when someone's starting to run out of ink because you start hearing the flood bar. You start hearing screen stick, you know, okay, the palettes are either getting too hot or they turn their flashes down too low, and now your palettes have gotten too cool. And with the quartz flashes, if you stop for a few seconds, they're forced air quartz flashes.
Yeah.
And they're all sheet metal. They cool down in seconds.
Right.
So your next 3 or 4 shirts, if they don't preheat those flashes and get them back up to temp, they're going to get them to stick. But that's due to not flashing.
Gotcha. Dude, this is great shit right here. Yeah, because this is just really the problem. This is where everybody seems to struggle the most. So this is good
and
stuff.
With most water base, you're only going to print 2 to 3 screens on most, not all. On most of them, you're only going to print 2, maybe 3 screens with wet on wet before it is causing a problem. It's just the nature of the high solids stuff. Now, if it's discharge, we actually do flash discharge, especially if we want a certain color to really stay nice. We will flash that color enough so that it's not being picked up at all on the next screen.
That makes sense.
And also, we'll keep the palettes warm for the tack.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're not just flashing just because we want to flash the color, but we're flashing because when we want to clean the palettes, we literally mist it with some water, scrub it, and by the time you put your scrub pad down, that palette's already tacky, and you're throwing a shirt on there and indexing it.
Yeah, man. That's beautiful. Shit. Dryers. Anything that it's not as common of an issue, but it seems to be the biggest issue just when you're trying. And you know, are you running gas? Right?
I'm running gas. I had electric.
So you've dealt with electric. Do you have any tips because it's so much harder to get consistent heat with those things? Have you learned anything or figured anything out with them?
Yes. So drafts kill electric dryers.
Okay.
If you have a draft where you're printing, you can have a draft really affect how your dryer cures, so whether it cures at all or whether it starts scorching shirts.
Yeah.
You know, I see people wanting to run discharge through a small little dryer, and they stick a fan in there and start blowing that stuff around. You're actually causing more harm than good because now you're creating cold spots, hot spots. And I'm sure everybody knows about scorching light heather tri-blends.
Oh, God.
And 60/40s.
Yeah, yeah.
It happens with gas, too. But with electric, get catalyst, especially if you're doing water base. You know, like with you use Matsui, so Matsui has Fixer L.
Yep.
It's pretty much the same thing as whatever the warp drive crap is. And
we use it. We've messed with them too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. You just got to cure. You got to get the water out.
Yeah.
And get it diffused, and then let it sit there. It'll be cured.
Cool.
But a lot of the guys that are trying to cure this stuff without a catalyst, you know, they're ending up wondering, why is my stuff cracking? Why is it washing off?
Wash off's the biggest one. Yeah. Even
it's
sometimes.
Hard.
Yeah. You got to.
With a tiny dryer, it's 2 or 3 times through the dryer. And you know, we had. What I have I think it was my second electric dryer was a forced air electric dryer. Still nothing compared to a gas dryer. But with that forced air in there, you had to be careful because you'd scorch shirts. To get discharge to cure properly, you'd almost be scorching the garment.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because discharge is complicated because you have to hit that 320, right, just to get it to properly discharge.
Well, you gotta. The big thing is you gotta evaporate water, and your ink isn't going to cure until the water's gone. Then your resins will be able to, and your binders will be able to fuse to the garment. That's why on every discharge job we run Fixer.
Even on discharge?
We run Fixer on everything water based.
Huh. Yeah, I mean we do too, but I like we've been completely bouncing away from discharge, but so you're putting it in there to help
we slowly are working our way away from it.
I just can't stand the cart. It just seems like I'm dying slowly when I use it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you are. It's
Yeah.
nasty shit.
Yeah,
And
it's rough.
I don't recommend anybody doing it without a forced air dryer
Right.
and good ventilation. Like, I stopped doing it for a long time when all I had was my little electric dryer. It's just even though you think it's cured, that stuff's sitting in the box. It's off-gassing formaldehyde,
Yeah, man.
and it's just not. A lot of people think this shit's not going to hurt me.
Right. And the
So I know a lot of old screen printers.
Yeah, man.
A lot of them have
Cancers.
a lot of problems.
Yeah, a lot of cancers, lung problems. Yeah, you got to try to ventilate.
Breathing, stuff like that. And so even when I open the discharge agent bucket, I got a fan sitting there drawing that away. I don't want to smell that shit.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, man. Sorry, I was all reading I was reading the chat here, too, because we got questions starting to pop in. I mean, I have other stuff here, dude, but I've taken so much of your time already.
Well, I'm good. They're setting the job up. I can go for a little while longer.
Okay, so we're going to do the Q&A, but also just real quick, you've answered a bunch of technical stuff, and we're going to get more technical in the Q&A portion. So just before we get to that, though, you guys start submitting your questions. Start resubmit any of your print myth bust things just in case I forget it. But we're going to do the print myth busting, and then we're going to do the Q&A after I ask these next couple of questions. So to you, what is your favorite part of this industry?
Mine is stepping a job and then coming out and making it work on press.
You love that part.
I love that part. I love being able to go in there, deconstruct an image, come out on the press, put it back together.
Yeah, that's badass.
And look at it and say, okay, that matches.
I love that. Fuck yeah, man.
It gets me in trouble sometimes, but...
Do you find that you might even be a perfectionist to a fault with that kind of thing sometimes?
Oh, totally, 100%.
Yeah, and it can almost even hurt your guys' bottom line at times when you're going too ape shit.
It does. So on certain jobs, I'll set them up at night. I'll set them up. If it's a job that I know I'm going to be too anal about, we print some jobs for animal rescue, and they're extremely passionate about the prints.
Mm.
So,
How much longer?
not much.
Okay, we're getting a little desperate for people when I have issues.
We're going to get you out of here, buddy. I know. This is just another one, too.
Yeah.
Why do you think business and all of these things, why is it so tough? Why does one shop make it, one shop fails? One person does well, one person does not so well.
Because screen printers are notoriously horrible business people.
There you go. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, seriously, we're left brain.
Right. That's it. I think that's it.
It is. The guys that make it, and a lot of the guys that are really big shops, if you look at what their background is, their background wasn't in printing.
Right.
The thing that what people need to take away from, yeah, I treat this like an art form, but we're manufacturing widgets.
There you go.
And the person that looks at that this is manufacturing widgets, those are usually your guys that are successful.
Interesting.
Because this is manufacturing. This isn't your hipster collective where we all hang out and print some shirts and goof off. And this is pure manufacturing, and you have to look at it as pure manufacturing. And that's where we've shifted. Before, for me, this was a craft. Mm-hmm. This was my craft. I'm going to do this craft well. I want to do it as good as anybody.
Yeah.
I was very proud of that, and now we've kind of shifted that mindset where before I would look at a job and be like, okay, we're going to make this much money off this. That'll be good. And now we're drilling down into, okay, why did it take 20 minutes to register this job today when the last 3 times we ran that it took 7 minutes?
Yeah. So you're just now becoming a business person. You're leaving the art of the craftsmanship and you're becoming a business person now.
Yes.
A manufacturer. That's beautiful. Dude,
yeah.
I would say so, man. I mean, I completely agree. I couldn't agree more. And that's really the difference. So if you want to go from, let's say, an artist who's a horrible business person to maybe an artist that's a little bit better business person, any mind shifts that you need to have that you can recommend? I guess it's kind of the same goddamn question when you think about it, but
it's kind of hard because there's so many different areas that need what we do, that what I do may not work for someone else, and what other people do may not work for me. I'm in one of the hardest markets, I think, in the country. I have crazy overhead. I have employees I have to pay really high in order to get workers. Living in Southern California, it's expensive.
Yeah, dude.
So we have to pay more to get quality people.
Yeah.
But we're fighting for the same business that, let's say, where you are, where your lower overhead in Arizona is lower.
Oh, yeah.
Or guys in Vegas. I have friends in Vegas that have shop.
Dude.
Their overhead is extremely low.
I can't remember what city it is, but I shit you not, I just saw someone tell me what their rent is for like 5,000 square feet. It's under $1,000.
I have a buddy that pays
That's
$2,500 in Tennessee
Yeah.
for 10,000 square
See,
feet.
I can't even. I mean, so Phoenix is like low, but that's crazy, dude.
That's crazy.
That's like
I
time to move.
I pay almost double that for 6,000.
That's right, dude. I'm sure, man. Yeah.
So,
but like that's why you say your market is difficult. You have a lot of things that you're battling against over there.
Oh yeah, no. So what, it's for us to survive here. We have to do something completely different. So that's where we went with our niche of okay, we're going to focus on quality, because there's 1,000 printers south of me that will do it for 25 cents. I mean, prices that are insane.
Yeah, I know.
That you look at the price and you're like, you realize that for most shops this is a good number. It's around 19 cents,
dude,
to put some ink on that shirt, one shirt.
Yeah.
So you get guys that print for 25, and they wonder why they got to print 50,000 of them to make rent that month.
Dude, I've seen the numbers, and even when you said that last number, like I went blank because I'm like, it makes you hesitate climbing into that market at all, dude. Even into that world, because it's like, what the shit.
Yeah, you got to have a good balance of contract and custom.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're small and growing, I would say try and stay with custom.
Custom's nice, man. It can be a very nice, lucrative market, but you may not be the big guy with thousands of employees running around pretending to do shit, but it's a nice place to be too.
Oh, totally. Yeah. But a lot of the big shops are going under.
Yeah.
And you see it obviously in the screen print marketing, or not marketing, but the for sale pages. Mm-hmm. See a lot of equipment up for sale.
Yeah, just go to Digit Smith. You'll get a pretty good gauge of how things are.
Digit Smith, Los Angeles, Craigslist.
Yeah,
I mean, there's shops closing. I had a shop that I just went and bought a flash dryer from them that this guy just closed down.
Yeah.
And I know why he closed, because I saw the work that he was putting out. And he admitted it.
Yeah. They were just cranking out bad stuff.
They're cranking out bad stuff, but that was his niche. His niche was people that didn't want to pay.
Right.
And unfortunately, he's now circling the drain.
That's the problem with that customer too, though. Just because you get a customer that doesn't want to pay doesn't mean they're not also going to badger the shit out of you for good quality. So you're basically fighting an uphill battle if you even play that game. Mm-hmm. Because the customer's still going to demand the same shit that they would demand from anyone else. They're just also not going to pay you anything for it.
Exactly.
So it's just like, get the fuck away from me. I don't want you. This is the last question, dude, and then we're going to get on to the Q&A, guys. So start submitting your questions. Don't be lazy. You got a wealth of knowledge here. Submit some goddamn questions. All right. When you're stuck as a small business, you're not a small business person, but you're still when you're stuck, you have a problem that you're dealing with. What is something that you've done, or some techniques you figured out to help you move through them or help you find an answer to that problem? It's a weird question, but I ask everybody.
Honestly, you build a good rapport with your reps.
Yeah?
Because if you have good reps, I'm lucky now, being in Southern California. It's still what I consider the screen print mecca of the world as far as what people are still doing and the latest and greatest stuff that people are running. So I have a little bit of an advantage because I deal with all of my reps are dealing with these heavy hitters
Yeah.
that are running stuff a year before we ever even see it.
Wow.
So I have access to ask them certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of it is you got to figure it out fast, and you got to look at things and say, okay, this just isn't lining up.
Yeah.
Screw it, burn new screens.
It's almost like
Sometimes
taking a step back and just starting over, kind of
right.
like
Sometimes you have to because you can spend all this time trying to mess with it, and it turns out that somebody tagged a 305. Somebody wrote down that it was a 180.
Right.
Somebody wasn't paying attention and they burned it as a highlight white, and you're trying to figure out why your highlight white sucks.
Right. There you go. So,
it's
reset, baby. If something's just happening funky, sometimes just reset that thing.
Just reset. Just
love that.
Reset it, and always have that next job ready.
I love it.
Have the next job ready sitting there so that when you do decide to pull the job,
yep.
your downtime's minimized and that next job is right on the machine.
That's
good. For a manual or an auto.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. We used to use two presses, we sold this Sidewinder just because of technical problems, but we would have one queued up on the other one, so in case something went bad on the first one, the printer could bounce to the second one. So like having it queued up like that's smart.
When we were short-staffed after we got our second auto, I would bounce from auto to auto, getting it ready.
Yeah.
It's all set up. The crew would literally jump off of one machine, walk over. The other one would be sitting there cycling, waiting. All they'd have to do is start loading shirts.
And that's that manufacturing mentality you were talking about earlier.
There's something a lot of people should look at. It's called TACT time, TAKT time.
Okay.
It's really neat to see how manufacturing businesses use that to speed up. It's all about seconds.
Is it a system? It's like a process that you apply to. Or a formula.
You're figuring out how much time each task takes.
Okay.
How can you eliminate time? So there's however many 30-something thousand seconds in a day, and you've got each job takes to perform a task. If it takes 13 seconds for that shirt to go all the way around the press, what can you do to speed that up?
And as someone that's trying to apply these formulas, are you out there with a goddamn stopwatch going
Oh yeah, sometimes. We keep track of every single job.
Yeah, okay.
Time for every single job.
How do you track it though? Do you use the presses functions a lot of the times to track all those things?
No, it's all handwritten on a sheet. So
yeah, we got to come up with a solution to that, baby.
Yeah, it's
that's the way you have to do it right now though.
We could do it on that, but we do it manually and then we go back and look at it. And I've done this enough I can look at a job and say that should take this amount of time.
Yeah.
And I watch. I give the guys, they get 5 minutes of screen.
That's their.
And then I'm snooping around, and I try and push it. I try and push it to 2.5 minutes of screen. But
are you a overbearing kind of foreman or whatever you would say, or have you found a way to walk those lines and not be a complete prick, or are you a complete prick, or are you?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Most of the time, no. Talking down to people that's not going to motivate them.
That's a good point.
I'm more of the I'm going to show you that you can do it.
Yeah.
And I'll show you how to do it.
Lead by example.
So if somebody tells me that, I can only run this job at 50 dozen an hour, I'm going to look at it and say, well, why? Why can't you run this job at 55?
Right.
Why can't you run it at 60? And usually, most of the time, it's they don't know, and it's like you go make a couple tweaks on some squeegees, some squeegee speed, and before you know it, you have them up at 60, 65 dozen an hour.
Dude, that's awesome.
Of certain jobs, and it's what I've found is it's very hard to find a person that wants to take it on as it's a contest. For me, anytime I run the auto, it's a contest. How fast can I do this?
Yeah.
How fast can I set it up?
Yeah.
How fast can I run it? how fast can I tear it down? How fast can I have the next job in? It's a contest to me, and it's hard to find that in people where other people want to do the same thing to where it's a contest. How fast can I do this?
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely a goal that every shop owner is going to have to try to figure out, right? And try to motivate their people in some way or another. It's tough.
It's all about, I mean, we don't make money until the shirt is out of the back of the dryer.
I know, isn't it crazy? Like, you think of that, right? All of the shit you got to do, and the only time that the pennies are dinking in the bucket is right there at that drop. That's crazy.
Correct. Everything else costs you money.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy.
And when it's on a larger scale, that money adds up really fast. So
nice.
You know, the guys are out there dicking around with a job for a half hour.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it's something that the same guy has done 5 or 6 times, you obviously try and address it that it's a training issue. You try and show them how to do it. I'm pretty laid back when it comes to that. I try and show them.
Yeah. That's the game, bro. It sounds
the
like
the last thing you want is a guy on your press saying, "Oh, fuck this guy. I'm just going to run this crap."
Yeah.
Because, you know, one, especially if it's a contract job, and you blow through 1,000 hoodies and they fuck up the print because they were pissed off because you were a dick.
Bro, I mean, the fear.
Guess who's paying for it?
Yeah, I mean, to me, dude, the fear of that. Like, if I were dealing with those kind of that world, bro, I would be a nervous goddamn wreck. Cause
yeah, no, you can be, and that's why I myself or who's kind of my production manager, we're always out here.
You have to be at that point, right? You have to have, even if it's not going to be you, your production manager, it has to be on the line for him, right? That's beautiful, man. Where do you have any predictions for the print industry itself, moving forward over the next 5 or 10 years? Did you see anything changing in it, or?
Well, right now there's there's something weird going on right now, at least out here.
Mm-hmm.
Printers are slow. There is a little bit of a slowdown.
You mean in terms of work volume?
In terms of work volume.
Okay.
That's everywhere from northern Mexico, Southern California. A lot of the big shops, they aren't pumping the volume.
Right. Well, it's all south of the border, I think.
Oh, even south of the border is a little slow.
Oh, okay.
It may have picked up now. I haven't talked to my buddy that is a rep down there, but even down there they were slow. So some people are comparing it that I talked to that were in this business when the economy took a shit.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying it looks the same, you know. And obviously, with what we make, we don't make necessarily an item that people have to have.
Right, it's not.
Most people are buying a shirt because they want the shirt.
Yeah, or it's a marketing push, and when things slow down, that marketing budgets are the first thing to get cut a lot of the time.
Exactly. So with some brokers, and you know, us personally, we're not slow. We're slammed. I mean, we're pulling 2 shifts. I'm lucky. We're busy.
Yeah.
But there are shops near me that have 3 or 4 autos, and they're running 1.
So what do you think it is? Is it?
I honestly don't know. I don't know whether it's something people are. Is it politically driven? Is it people worried about the stock market? You know, as high as it is, are they worried about it taking a dump?
Right. Well, I've heard, you always hear it, but I've heard pretty big talk of the impending real estate thing, like another slump in that market. I wonder if that translates to the imprintables market or anything like that. It could. I don't know.
Well, you know, one of my clients, they're a huge sports netting manufacturer, and he was in here the other day. We were making some hats for him, and he asked how we were doing, and he's been in the business, both printing and the manufacturing of the nets for 30 plus years. And he pretty much said, he goes, "You guys are the canary in the mine shaft. You always have been." He goes, "Ever since I've been dealing with printers, and he used to do apparel." He said that the printing industry is the canary in the mine shaft of the economy, or one of. So it's interesting. I get most of my information from my sales reps. I talk to them and see where they're sitting at. Like, okay, well, how are you doing on your goals? Because they all have sales goals. They're supposed to sell X amount of product, and and they're down. A lot of them are down. People aren't buying product.
You have you have reps that represent your print shop.
Well, yes, I do have a sales rep that.
Okay. But you're talking about your industry reps and stuff as well.
Yeah, I'm talking about my industry reps. I'm talking about like your NASDARs, your Dynamics, the Saudis,
right,
Rutlands. When those guys come by and say that they're down and their sales are down, that means the because the printers aren't buying stuff if they're not printing.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure what it is either. It'd be interesting to hear.
It's weird. It's like I said, I'm not experiencing it, so. Yeah.
Well, I mean, my shop's experiencing it, but it's because what I said earlier. We're having to transition to a new client.
Right.
Right. So I can't really speak in terms of the industry on it, but I mean, I feel something, but I don't think it's the same thing other printers are feeling either. So I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, there's something funky. Can't put my finger on it though.
Hey, but don't be scared, guys. You can still get in. All right, dude. So let's go ahead and move on to the Q&A, or we'll do the print myth busting, and then we're gonna mix print myth busting with the Q&A, and then we'll have you plug all your shit, and we'll get you out of here, dude. I appreciate this. All righty. So starting through here, I got to try to read through this as quick as possible. What's up, Cam? What's up, Cam? Everyone just wants to say thank you for being here. They appreciate it, and they're enjoying the show. So there's that. Inking Zinc. My bottleneck is a sweatshop down the street that prints for pennies no matter what size of job. Oh, this is in regards to something else. God damn it. Sorry, guys. I'm looking through here. A lot of things at Marshall instead of the questions. What's up? Print myth bust from Inking Zinc. Hashtag print myth bust. I recently heard that water-based ink will eventually dry with no heat if given enough time. Not at a production level, but is this true?
Depends on the brand. If you're talking Speedball, yeah.
It's pure acrylic, right? Like Speedball is like a pure acrylic ink.
Yeah, it's like acrylic paint.
Right, but it also doesn't heat set into the garment as well either, right? Yeah.
No, water-based inks have binders in them that are heat activated. So you can put a catalyst in it and it will eventually chemically cure it.
Right. Perfect. So, sort of. Ish. Depends on the brand.
Ish. If you leave HSA, so, a lot of times if we spill some HSA on the press, we won't wipe it all down.
Yeah.
We'll come back in a couple days and peel it off.
Yeah, that's right. Permaset Aqua is an interesting one because I feel like they're more of like a true acrylic, right? Without solvents and shit like that. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure they are. Yeah. But yeah, man, so I think that it depends on the brand. Good question. Print, myth, bust. Any more, guys? You got to be goddamn kidding me with this shit. So many questions people are scared to ask. Stainless roller is key. Only one of that. All right. Inking Zinc. He'd be interested to know how Jason decides what color base to use. So a blocker. Gray, white, black, etc. How do you determine what color you're going to use?
As light as I can get away with. I'll cut a blocker with poly.
Uh-huh.
If I can get it to go lighter and not migrate.
Okay.
Like I said, we use everything from black to light gray.
It is interesting to me, though. Like, in my mind, I would use a black, like on, say, a black shirt just because it's like, maybe, I don't know, like less likely to peak if you're having registrations. But other than that, I don't understand why you would use a black blocker. Logically, it doesn't make sense to me.
Carbon and some of the other stuff that they put into it.
So the carbon is what's actually blocking the migration. So black is probably like the purest form of carbon.
Absorbs it.
Okay.
Absorbs your dye.
So does the black blocker then technically have the highest blocking capabilities as opposed to a gray or a lighter gray blocker?
I use Matsui's Combat Black blocker.
Uh-huh.
I use Magna's Migration Eliminator. It's a darker gray.
Okay.
It's a lot. I guess you got to play with it and see. I've not noticed much of a difference. But I use the black blocker on dark garments, like how you just said. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, it's just kind of more of an
especially once you
invisible-
start stacking bases.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so that's that's what I would say. You just kind of use your best judgment, man. That's a tough one.
But I do try and get it, especially it depends on what I'm printing on top.
Yeah.
For example, if I'm just printing white ink, I'm going to use the black blocker. I'm hitting 2 white screens anyway.
Right.
Because at that point, it's about the fiber mat down.
Right. Jesse from Matsui said that too. Like he said, you're gonna find not only that you're blocking and stuff, but the blockers give really great like fiber matting as well, right?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, so it's another bonus of just using a blocker on more and more stuff. That's a pretty good question. I think we answered it pretty doggone well. Let's see what else we got here. Question: I see Cam using Yeah, so this is a huge topic for debate. I'm probably gonna get fucking embarrassed here, but let's go for it. I see Cam using silicone spray under the side of the screens to control sticking. He also just answered something with the flashing is part of the problem with that. But what's your opinion on silicone and all that kind of shit?
I've had the same can for about 8 years.
Doesn't use it. Yeah, so a lot of people's concerns were not so much about but that it could stick to the base below it, right?
So silicone you can use silicone right after the flash. I prefer to put additives in my ink that get rid of the tack, and that eliminates a lot of the need for silicone.
And also, like you said, the flashing. When you start learning to control your flashing, you're gonna have tack.
Flashing, but also different emulsions also stick worse than others.
Interesting. Any brands?
So if you have an emulsion that you have a lot of problems printing wet on wet with, pick up an emulsion that's specifically made for water-based printing that has a higher silicone content in it. You'll notice that when you print with that, you're not even wiping screens.
Damn, that's good. It's a good tip, bro. And that's from Matt Fontaine. You guys know him very well. He's coming on the show next week.
Oh yeah.
So cool. Good question, Matt. And what do you guys? No, not that. This is a stupid fucking question. You ask questions like that, you're not coming on the show next week. He's not coming on.
What did he ask?
So he wants to know I'm going to paraphrase for him because his question was dumb. What do you like on your hot dogs?
Smooth balls.
There you go. It's an inside joke, clearly. I am new to screen printing. Just got my flash dryer. My question is, this is from Rusty Lee. When flashing for multicolor, do you want tacky or dry to the touch? He gets mixed answers from this. So this is also like a print myth bust kind of thing.
You want as close to tacky without pulling the ink. You don't want to over flash it.
Yeah, and if you go back, if you guys just caught it, go back and listen because there was a pretty good he covered that pretty good earlier, but go ahead.
Because you can still over flash when you're flashing your colors. And before you know it, your fibers are popping back up through.
Okay. Beautiful. Jason Lablue, this is from Shroom Brothers. All he's ever printed with is water-based inks. Is this sustainable for growth, or do I have to use plastisol at some point?
There are some things, they say water-based can do everything, but you have to look at it from a production standpoint. Right. Water-based is great. Is it necessarily production-friendly? No, on certain things. My biggest pet peeve with water-based is double stroking. Because on the autos, it's all double stroked.
You have to, right? Just to keep that to clear it, yeah.
You have to keep the screens clear.
Yeah. So from a production standpoint, that just kills your production, having to double stroke everything?
I wouldn't say kills it, but if you're set up, if you don't have the dryer that can handle it, there's your bottleneck.
Right. There you go.
You can run 600-700 pieces an hour on water-based on a machine, or even faster, depending on the machine. But you run into the bottleneck of your dryer.
Yeah.
But if for him, I remember he prints. He's printing on a manual. It's with water-based. You have to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
I mean, printing it on a manual, you can't walk away.
It's tough, dude.
Once you start printing, print.
Yeah, it amazes me though, because it's not for the faint of heart by any means. But apparently over there across the pond, dude, that's how they've been printing for years.
They are. They're way ahead of us in that aspect.
They just understand that it's not. I don't know. I don't know what it is,
but you know, Jesse made a good point. I watched one of your things with Jesse.
Yeah,
he's totally correct on the cost of labor and the cost of labor of sitting here and working with plastisol versus water base. You know, especially if you get into simulated process water base and stuff like that, where you're changing the way you color separate. You're not color separating the same way you do for plastisol.
Right.
With plastisol, you're color separating to try and use dot gain and avoid dot gain, whereas water base has no dot gain. In fact, you have dot loss.
Yeah, it blew my mind when he brought that up. I was like, what the fuck?
So you're actually fighting that. So you're, in a way, you almost have to retrain your staff. They have to look at it different. They have, you know, where if you're running 2 presses with water base and you're trying to haul ass, you've got an extra body being an ink tender.
Yeah, that's true too, man.
Whereas plastisol, the guys on the press can maintain that. They can pause for a second, run around the machine, card the ink. But you've got, when you're running balls out, you've got a guy that's running around with an ink bucket, pulling ink out, putting fresh ink in, mixing the old ink back up, trying to keep that stain consistency, because now you run into problems as you throw fresh ink into this press, now you're shifting your color.
Yeah. And it also, yeah, that's true. And even like with white, when it first goes in, it's almost too opaque. It has to acquire a little bit of motion to kind of opaque.
You got to work it up. You got to get a little moisture out of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, depending on the ink, you throw it in there, and now all of a sudden you're transparent. You're like, what the hell?
Right, man. It almost sounds like it kind of just, I mean, I'm not going to say this because I say a lot of shit, so whatever, but I am going to say it. It's like if you're really going to go for one, it's almost like you kind of got to put all your eggs in whatever basket you're dealing with, right? Because they are kind of 2 different monsters in a strange way.
They are 2 different monsters.
So, like, for you guys, you can do it for the client occasionally if they request it, but at the end of the day,
you've got to set up for it.
Yeah.
And the guys that set up for it run it successfully, and
that's right.
And it can be done.
Right.
For your hardcore plastisol guy, there's a learning curve.
Right. That's
and sometimes the learning curve's too much. They fight with it and they give up. But you can run it, and it does produce a excellent product.
It's sweet, dude. The final product I like it. I like it a lot.
It is. I think it's worth. I think, you know, he's already started using water base.
Yeah.
There's no reason to go away from it unless he's looking at, you know, it prints fine on polyester. Use a blocker on the polyester.
Yeah. He says he's sticking with it.
There's really not much you can put it on.
Right on, man. Yeah, he says he's sticking with it. Dude.
Other than low cure poly bags, you're printing, you know, cheap shit poly bags.
Right. Run. Cool, dude. I mean, I took up so much of your goddamn time. I literally have more stuff here and shit, but I feel like we gotta cut it at some point.
Cool.
There's even other questions in here, but I've taken 2 hours of your time. I'm just not gonna put you through no more. You guys just plug, bro. Plug your shop, plug your Instagram, plug whatever it is you got. You got a Facebook group, a personal one?
No.
Okay, so just
no. I just float around and screw around in these groups.
Okay.
But I'd like, you know. I would say for people starting out, get you guys a good set guy.
There you go.
You know, I'll throw JJ's name out there.
Okay.
JJ, I use JJ when I'm busy.
Do you have a website for him, or does
JJ McCampbell? He's just done the groups.
Okay, he's in the groups.
He needs to do a website, damn it.
Yeah, if maybe if you talk to him after this, I'd like to bring him on to talk to him about stuff, but also maybe we can
he's a great guy. He's got 30 years in this too.
Maybe we can get his contact.
Shops.
Let's get his contact info from you at the end, and I'll put the shit in the description maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
So JJ, what else you got?
Not much.
What about your website? What's your site?
Inkworks.com, and it sucks.
Get your shit together, man.
I started it about 5 years ago, and it's still the same.
I'll talk to you about that after the show, actually. I have some questions for you. And if they want to get in touch with you, what's the best place to reach you?
Just through Facebook is fine.
Facebook. You like the groups, right? You like interacting in there?
Yeah, I get plenty of messages throughout the day. So if I don't answer somebody, I'll usually get to it by the next day.
Right on, dude.
So it's
Cool.
gets pretty busy sometimes.
I know, bro. Like you guys, just so you're when I called him up, dude, he's like, and then he's doing another thing, and he's doing another thing, and we're trying to get a Skype call going. I feel bad for him getting badgered by you guys sometimes. I think, dude, that's crazy. I go through it too, though, because that channel, man. Like, what? Oops.
Nah, it's good. It's fine. It's you know, like I said, when I started this, I didn't have a ton of resources.
Yeah.
I knew I had somebody that when we first started the business together, he had some experience, but you know, we parted ways, and it was just, you got to figure it out. It's you got to burn screens, try it. And most of the time when someone tells me I can't do it, it's like, you know, when we're slow in February or the end of January, which is pretty rare, we're usually pretty busy, but my favorite thing to do is to come back from the ISS show, and everybody that told me you can't do this, you can't do this, and you can't do this with this product, I come back and figure out a way how to do it.
Nice. You're into
so you
that
just gotta,
shit, man. Yeah,
you just got to figure it out.
That's the artist in you. You like messing around, and it sounds like you're a little bit of a scientist too. You like getting out there and messing with chemistry and shit as well. Because you hear about a few shops doing it, but you don't hear so much about people mixing different whites and bases and all that, dude. And I see you looking off screen, so we're gonna let you go, my friend.
I was just seeing if you could see the
yeah. Oh, there it goes.
ink.
Yeah.
So
see?
I mean, it's cool. I mean, we get people from all over the place. Like, I got this that I'm supposed to sit here and test. I don't know what it is, but they sent it to me to test.
Yeah.
I've
been
lucky enough to do beta testing for WillFlex. That's pretty cool.
You'll do it. You'll take the time and you'll go out there and you'll test these people's products and stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Cool.
Because it's only to my advantage if I can find something that works better than what I'm using now.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's all about speed and quality too.
Right.
So if I can, I'm always, you know, I'm not publicly doing it, but I'm always looking for the next white.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'll test anything, but I won't necessarily. I learned a couple of hard lessons to not. I won't test stuff publicly anymore, unless it's like, because it's there's a lot of the stuff like. You can open a lot of can of worms that you maybe didn't intend to, you know. In the
you can, and there's stuff. I have stuff here now that I'm testing that I can't even show, and you know they make you sign.
Well, sometimes just the responsibility of it too. Like if like I had to learn this the hard way, but if you test a product out, like on the YouTube channel, and you're just checking shit out, but if you do it publicly and you don't have all these disclaimers in the beginning, people will like maybe take it as an endorsement, and now you're selling shit for other people that you didn't even intend to, or you're endorsing something that you didn't intend to, right? A couple of them was the flash, the fucking Chinese flash where I was testing it out. But there was another one with Fusion 180 ink where I had just tested it, did a video on it. A bunch of people bought it. Come to find out later that I couldn't stand using it.
Yeah.
Right. But I didn't include that part in the video. So there's just a responsibility to doing this stuff publicly, I think.
There is, and there's, you know, most of the stuff that's out there is good. You just have to figure out
how to use it.
Characteristics. Most people don't spend the time and play with it, and you know, and some stuff it's hard to test. You know, you get some ink guy that only wants to send you a quart. Well, I can't test a quart.
I know.
It's you know, by the time I've got it dialed and have 50 shirts spinning around the press, it's gone.
Well, how about this is the one I get. Hey, if I send you a quart of our new white, will you do a whole video for us? I'm like, oh yeah, I'll take all day to make you a video review for a quart of ink. Hey, you know? Yeah. That's the shit I get, dude. I was like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah. But there's a lot of, you know, I can't say some of it, but there's a lot of cool stuff coming out. There's a lot of neat products coming out.
Have you gotten your hands on Virus at all? Have you had a chance to fuck with it?
I have it here.
You do?
I have it here.
What's your take on it so far?
I think that it's a good product. It really is a good product. But you do have to have your shit together.
Okay.
You got to make sure that it's not for. I wouldn't suggest it for the new guy.
Yeah. Okay.
That doesn't have plastisol figured out, and you basically, and when I say that it doesn't have plastisol figured out, you got to take all of your plastisol knowledge and just push it off to the side with any of these urethane inks, not just Virus, but Magna's Edge. I have that one sitting here too.
Yeah.
You've got I forget what Matsui's is, but the new Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
All of these inks, they work in certain parameters, and if you're not paying attention to those parameters, the shit doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work right, and you can screw up a lot of shirts quick.
Yeah.
And I've done quite a bit of wet on wet CMYK with Virus, and we screwed up a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to figure it out and learning it.
Did you get it? You got it dialed in though. You figured it out.
We know how to run it.
But
and how to make it?
Would you run a job on it? Is it worth the transition, or would you just do a plastisol CMYK and be done with it? Well, some people require.
Well, don't get me on the CMYK kick.
Maybe another time. Hopefully, maybe if you're cool, we can have you back on another day.
That's been a big. I see all these poor people trying to run CMYK in the groups.
Yeah.
And it's just not.
I'll tell you this, manually especially, because even if you are robotic in your movement, doing it manually is tough.
5,700. We're in the middle of changing our business over to a. I'm actually letting my wife have most of it, so we can be a woman-owned business.
What the fuck is that? Cool. Right on, man.
Well, there's so many grants and so many programs that you can get into if you're a woman or minority-owned business.
No kidding.
It makes no sense that, if you have access to a wife, make her the
maybe soon,
majority owner. But
right on, man.
No, as far as those inks go, you just got to practice with them. But I'd run them. But as far as CMYK,
I wanted to talk
to you about manual, like you say, on a manual.
Yeah. The consistency is the problem too, right? If you can't control your pressures and your angles, you can pull it off. But if you're looking at the shirts on a spectrum, they're all over the place.
All over the place.
Yeah.
It's not very repeatable.
No, it's
as far as your humidity could drop 20 points.
Yeah.
And your shirts aren't going to look the same the next time you run it.
Right.
And it's most people's halftones, they aren't up to spec to be running stuff like that. It's you're not going to get halftones that you should be getting off of running no rip.
Right.
I'll probably take a bunch of shit for that, but
I disagree. I agree completely. I've been shouting that thing forever. I've tested the whole, and I've had people battle against me, but I've tested it with the little fucking loop on the halftone that you output when you do the conversion, the bitmap conversion, compared to the control you have on something like AccuRip. I'm sure there's other rips out there, but I'm just talking AccuRip. It just doesn't make sense not to do it.
Well, you put it in a densitometer. I used to make all my films. I didn't have a rip. Mm-hmm. I did them in Photoshop. I did the same thing. Yep. And then once you start trying to go 55, 65, 80 LPI,
yeah, man,
your film's not dark enough.
Oh, yeah,
I don't care what.
Shit. And I can't imagine not controlling the droplet weight now. Like before I knew about it, I was like, yeah, that's okay. But now that you know that you can control it and back it up, it's like, there's no way not to.
Oh, and once you get into linearization, like my printer's linearized, so
I don't know what that is.
Basically, your halftones are what they. If I have a 10% dot in Photoshop, when I output that 10% area, it's a 10% dot on my film.
Really?
Inkjets, when they print to the film, inkjets have dot gain.
Oh yeah.
On top of what you get on your press. So a lot of people think, oh, I'm holding a 5% dot, when in reality, you're holding about a 15 to 18% dot. Because if you actually read it with a densitometer, it's going to tell you that dot's 18%.
Dude, this is that next level shit. So this is and when you're going into these really high-end simulated process stuff, this is the kind of stuff that you're tackling now to control the variables.
Oh yeah, especially for your midtones.
See, this is
everything that starts to close up when you're printing.
This year, that's where this entire year, if I can ever get this software thing fucking done, that's like my next thing in the shop is to really dive into separations and really, really try to get the technical aspects of simulated, get an understanding for it. So maybe I can hit you up and pick your brain on that when the time comes.
That's why I say there's a lot of SEP guys out there, and people don't want to pay for SEPs. They think that this guy's gonna charge me $80, $100, $150. Mm-hmm. when that guy's set thousands of jobs for high-end printers, and he's going to tell you what screen mesh to put it on, what print order to use. That's how you learn.
There you go.
And it's well worth whatever these experienced guys are charging. You know, you got a guy like JJ who has printed forever. Well, I don't want to make him old, but he's printed a long time.
JJ, you're old, dude.
He's sepped a lot. He's sepped for a ton of different people. He still seps for me sometimes, and even though he probably wants to kill me. But, you know, when I'm busy, I can't sit there and bust out a bunch of seps.
It's tough, man. Yeah.
So, you know, but he's one that you can go to and say, okay, I'm comfortable enough. I could give him a job if I wasn't here and say, sep this, call them out the print order, call out the mesh and the Pantone colors, have my guy print off the films, and they're gonna get damn close.
Damn. That's crazy.
So,
that's crazy to hit it first time.
But the amount of knowledge you can get from these guys, and that's how I did it too. I've used every SEP guy out there when I was learning, because I would go and I would get that SEP file, and then I would sit there and reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
Okay, how did he extract this color? What did he do to extract this color?
Dude, some of the processes are hard too, and you do see that it's an art form most of the time. There is no button that goes da-da-da, and it's separated.
No, all of these canned SEP programs. I mean, there are some of them do okay, but most of them.
I think the best ones are just the Photoshop actions. You know what I mean? The ones that can process some of the complicated, repetitive tasks, like.
Right.
Yeah.
You still got to go in there and manually remove artifacts, and you've got to go in there and, play with the curves and do stuff like that. There's no one single, and I've used every single one. There's no one single SEP program that you can literally hit separate and print.
No. What do you think of Hi-Fi? Have you had your hands on that? Is it called Hi-Fi?
Hi-Fi, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have it.
You like those
used
actions?
It for a while.
Yeah.
I do like his actions. I like his actions a lot.
Cool. Yeah.
So he pulls the way he pulls the hues out. I like how he does it. I like the color model that he uses. He's able to. His is one of the few that actually really pulls grays.
Really, it does a good job at it.
And gray is a hard one for all of them to pull. For Simple Seps, the Sep Studio.
You know what's interesting?
All of those.
Are you and dude, I gotta let you go. But when you're going into these, are you with most high-end simulation jobs? Even if you're barely seeing gray, are you usually printing one or two different gray shades? Is that the screen that ties a lot of that stuff together?
Oh yeah.
The grays are the trick, right?
Yep. Especially if you're doing a grayscale.
Well, yeah, but even in full color.
But even in full color simulated process, some gray mixed with other colors gives you a lot of really cool tones and gives you a lot of depth. So grays being in there.
Yeah.
I'm not one. When I look at a job, I'm not one to look at it and say, how can I do this in 3 colors?
Right. Well, you're not limited to 6-color press, but yeah.
Right. But even if I wasn't, and that's the other thing I'll bring up is you got guys they want you to print an 8-color job in 4 colors. Mm-hmm. Outsource that damn thing.
I agree, man.
Wow, your customer.
Yeah. Don't
print it in 4 colors and make it look like crap.
Right.
So that the guy like me comes behind them and goes and prints it in 8 colors, and they're like, holy shit, why does it look so much better? It's not that the guy did a bad print job, he did a bad SEP job.
Right, and he didn't have the colors to really give you the
didn't have the
range.
Colors, and that's that's one thing when you brought up mistakes, and then I'll let you go.
I gotta let you go. I feel bad.
The mistakes I made early on is I didn't outsource shit. I trusted nobody to touch my stuff.
Yeah.
And if I could do that part over again, I would have found a reputable printer that I could have outsourced some stuff to.
Right, I agree.
That was too big for what I probably should have been running.
Right.
Especially when I only had my 6-color auto.
I agree with that 100%. I think also outsourcing allows a smaller shop to acquire clients without wasting money on infrastructure that they're not even ready for yet.
Oh, yeah, and especially if you don't know if this client's going to be long-term.
Right. Now, I want to talk to you about that. I actually have some questions for you after this thing. So, hey, guys, thanks. Let's thank Jason in the thing. At the end of this video, as soon as this is done, please go into the actual comment section and say what's up, say shout out to Jason, thank him for being here, and like the damn thing. Or thumbs down it. Doesn't give it. I just need you to interact with the video. Anything else that you want to say before we peace out of here, Jason?
No, just thanks for having me on.
That's it, man.
I still got several hours to go, so I'm
right on, brother. Well, thank you so much for being on, dude. You're the best. Just hang tight, though. I want to talk to you after this. Just hang tight for 1 second.
No problem.
All right, Print fam. Thank you guys so much for hanging with us. Thanks for asking your questions. Thanks for being here. Ooh, we had some high viewership this time, baby. Looks like we hit consistent 100. So good. I think the threat to boot your asses out of the group worked. Maybe that's going to be the new standard threat. Thank you guys so much for hanging with us. Again, make sure to comment and interact with this video. Share it after we're done. And then also go subscribe to the podcast. You can catch this thing in audio form on iTunes, Google Play, all that stuff. Go there, listen to that as well, because we're trying to get that thing built up. And subscribe to this channel if you're not already, and watch the uploads, all that shit. Thank you guys. See you next Wednesday, 3 p.m. And I think we're going to be talking to fucking Matt. Whatever, yeah, that Matt. So we'll see you guys next week. Yeah, guys. Talk to you soon. Peace out.